where we didn't have many students with disabilities in the schools, and if the students were, sent to other programs, but they were not in the public schools. So that was a huge change for all of us.
Right, so you've learned a lot from having just like that student.
Oh yeah, and
Like coming from a time that was
exactly. So I mean, I've taught. I was 38 years in K-12, and then I came to K-State in 2008, and I retired the end of this July. So I had a long career with many grades and a lot of time in special education, but I've seen lots of changes.
So did that particular student have any impact on your student overall? Like down to like
Oh yes. Not we don't keep in touch, but I think probably one of the reasons his name came to mind the other day is I was putting some things away for the holidays, and so I could decorate. And he had gone to Florida for a vacation, and we had up through 6th grade in our buildings. And he came back that fall and he brought me a purple seashell. I still have it. I still have it. So it's maybe it's because I was pulling things out and I saw it before I put it away for the holidays. Yeah, still. Yeah. Oh gosh. How old? Let's say 11. He was 10 or 11 back in 1974, somewhere in there. And so 75, well, it would have been after 75, so gosh, he'd be a parent. Well, I like to think he is. Yeah. I like to think he is. But he was one of the ones that I just remember. Yeah.
So what got you initially interested in disability education? You seem like you're
I am. And initially, I started working on a master's at K-State in curriculum and instruction. And I really thought that I wanted to be like a curriculum coordinator or something like that. And then I realized I wouldn't work with the kids. I'd be working with faculty. And at the time, I wanted to be hands-on, and so I went ahead and finished my master's in that particular area. And that was, let's see, I finished that in '76, and then in '83 I started my master's in special education. And so I went back, but it stuck with me. It's like, these are the kids I want to work with. I enjoyed all my other students, but these are the kids I want to work with. And so I went ahead and got another master's and went for it. Yeah.
no regrets.
No regrets. None. Yeah.
What was your original first classroom like?
Oh gosh. In special ed or in gen ed?
Well, either one.
Okay, well, I'll give you a little brief about gen ed and then I'll talk about SPED. Gen ed classroom, my first year of teaching, the year that I graduated was one of those years. They had a saying: if you shake a tree, 100 general education elementary teachers will fall out of it. It was one of those years where there were not a lot of jobs. Here I was elementary, and they're just, and so the joke was, not a lot of you are going to get jobs. Well, my attitude was the good ones will get jobs. And so the advice that I got from my college advisor is that the first district that offers you a contract, take it. Even if it's not the one you want, take it. Because that will give you a year's experience, and then you can, it's easier to find a job when you have a job. So I said, okay. So the Catholic schools in Topeka.
We both went to Catholic school.
Did you? I was at St. Matthew's.
Oh, cool.
Okay, you're from Kansas City. Well, anyway, so Catholic schools called first. And they offered me a contract. And I had also interviewed at Shawnee Heights. But the Catholic schools offered the contract first. And you know when it is, you're trying to get your first job, and I was kind of naive, and I didn't think, well, should I call Shawnee Heights and see if they've made up their mind? It was just like, oh, I've got a contract. And so I signed it, And you'll get a kick out of this. It was for $4,800 for the year. Yeah, it was a 9-month contract. That was it. I mean, it was little money, you know. But anyway, took the contract, signed it. Shawnee Heights called the next day.
Oh no. No breaking that contract.
No, and that was the thing. I was, professional enough at that age that I knew that if I broke that contract, that would send a message to Shawnee Heights. It would send a message to anybody. Well, you don't value that. So I stuck with the contract, and I told them I've already signed one. I'm really sorry. And they said, if you want a job with us, you call us in October. So I called them naturally, and I said, I really do want a job at Shawnee Heights. And they said, no problem. By the early part of January, I knew what building I was going to be in and what grade I was going to have. So, and they told me later that one of the reasons that they hired me and offered me those options was that I didn't break the contract. They said, we knew you were a professional because you didn't break the contract.
Okay, so what would have happened if you did break the contract?
I mean, it was summer, there may have been, in some districts, there are penalties, there are financial penalties for breaking contracts. I really don't know, but it was just my gut feeling I wasn't going to do that. I was taught that once you commit to something, you got to. Yeah. So long story short, I had student taught in first grade. I wound up with 5th and 6th. Student teaching in first, 5th and 6th. It was departmentalized. I was teaching my 2 content areas, English and social studies. I had a homeroom. I will never forget this. I had 36 kids, and 9 of them were girls.
Oh my god.
9 girls. It was rowdy. I mean, it's just like all these boys, and it was, not that big of a classroom. 36 kids crammed in there. So that was my first experience.
Typically, all my classes have been more on the girl-heavy side. Like, I feel like usually, I don't know, other classes are like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So many boys.
There were so many boys that year. And so that was my first experience in Gen Ed.
Wait, so that was at Shawn?
It was
the big classes at Shawn?
No, it was at the Catholic schools, yeah. In Topeka.
So you probably didn't see very many special needs kids at all in classes?
No.
Especially at that time?
At that time, not at all. Not at all. So, and I mean, it was a good experience. It was just, I knew where I wanted to be, and I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my first experience in Gen Ed. My first experience in special ed was at that particular time in the 80s. We had what they called resource rooms, and it was only for students with learning disabilities. So I had a resource room for students with learning disabilities, nobody else. And actually, Dr. Caff and I taught together back at Tecumseh North back in those days. And she had a class. She had a self-contained class of upper elementary students with emotional and behavioral disorders. That was her experience in special education. And we taught together for a number of years, and we've been friends ever since. But long story short, I had a resource room. I was working with the students that I really, felt really passionate about. Students with learning disabilities, they are so complex, but they, in most cases, are so smart. And you're just trying to figure out the ways to open up the world to them. So I was really excited about that, and I had my own, I had a classroom. I had a fairly large caseload. I had over 20 students. Didn't have any paras.
And they were all special needs?
Yeah, but they came and went, but it was a resource room.
So they weren't pulled. They were pulled.
They were pulled from their classes. Exactly. It was not inclusion. It wasn't until the early 90s that Shawnee Heights started to do inclusion, and they did it with a bang. The special education director came in one day in the spring, and he says, next year it's all inclusion. And I'm going, okay. And then the first thing that comes to my mind is inclusion is not for everyone. Some students need that one-on-one, they need that pull-out, and if it's inclusion, you know, essentially the opposite of inclusion is pull-out. And so, you know, there were all these questions. You know, were we going to be allowed to pull out students? Did we have to only serve them in the classrooms? And the teachers were not excited. You know, suddenly they're saying, what, we have another adult in our room? You know, they were used to having paras in some cases, but all of a sudden, you know, here is a special educator that's going to be into your classroom. And I learned a long time ago that you need to be invited into those classrooms, not told that you're going. You know, because people are territorial. I'm sorry, but they are. This is my classroom. These are my kids. And so that was a little bit different. And so we did a little bit of experimenting before the edict came down. And there were several teachers who were very open to it. And so my attitude was, well, you go and work with those. And then hopefully the others will say, hey, can you do that in my room? Or that looks like it's really working. Can I try it? You know, but you just don't force your way into a classroom.